What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros live show from Nashville, United States. We are here for the Nashville Bitcoin Conference, and it's been fun. In today's show, we'll tell you guys a little bit about what's happening here in the great city in Tennessee. However, we got a lot to talk about with prices because, yeah, we're bouncing back up this morning, but the crash or dip, I think crash is a little aggressive to use here. The dip in crypto, mainly in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and yes, altcoins are falling as well, continued to the downside. What does that mean, though, for prices moving forward? We're going to be taking a look at the charts. We're also going to be taking a look at several stories. Yes, we're here on a conference, but we're paying attention to the news. There are some stories that are still implicating that bulls are waiting to pounce. The question is when, not if, and we're going to break all of that down for you and more. So if you are excited about today's show, yes, I'm in a hotel room. Yes, it's not a normal production. Yes, you might see some granular Tim, but you need to smash the like button anyways. But first, we got to roll our intro. Well, how does it do? Teach Room, how you doing today?
I'm good. I am good. I think you came in a little loud. Could you move your mic a little bit further away? Not that far. Closer. Not that far.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I'm a little more soft-spoken than Tim, and I didn't realize that I needed to brief him on the use of these microphones.
You have maybe no brief whatsoever. In case anyone is wondering, Teach Room and I are, for the first time since April 20th of 2023, we are sitting in the exact same room while shooting this show. Listen, it's a mile marker. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, let's not give people sickness here, moving the camera around too much here. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun today, but it's good. It's good to be in the same room. Yesterday, we were in the same house. That was a lot of fun. It's good to be close to you.
We were close. We were getting close.
Yeah, very, very close. But anyway, T-Shroom, how are you enjoying Nashville so far? We've been here a little bit less than 24 hours. How's it treating you?
Nashville is better than I deserve, Tim.
That's good. Good. I'm glad we worked that in there one way or another. I'll tell you this, guys. I'm not a city person, not a very big city person, but anyone who's been to a lot of big cities, I haven't been to every single one. I still need to visit like Detroit or Chicago, but I cannot imagine they're going to pass this bill. I don't think I've seen a city as clean with the nightlife, and I don't mean like necessarily like clean, like not sins happening down the road. I just mean like literally like the street corners don't smell like puke.
Mm-hmm. Which is nice.
They looked really nice. The lights were fun. I actually enjoyed walking down, what is it, Broadway? Is that the road?
You got it, Tim. First try.
Nashville, one of my favorite cities I've ever been in. And I really do hope that this becomes the new future place for Bitcoin conferences every single year. I would look forward to them very, very much so. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump in here, T-Shroom. Go ahead and share my screen. It's going to be fun today because I got one. I'm going to reference this, guys. I've been in a little bit of a tuffle last couple of days with T-Shroom and Usama. I want to make sure you guys understand. I was wrong here. I'm going to go ahead and just get out of the way. I did not think that the prices would have to come this low. I thought that 65K for Bitcoin would be a very strong level of support. I thought that 3,300 for Ethereum would be a strong level of support. Now, we did talk about some lower levels that have come into play here. And we're going to take a look at the charts in just a second and reevaluate those. That we talked about if bad things happen, this is where we're going to be going. And today I'm going to tell you now, based off this most recent bearish dip, where I think the bottom for these prices will be. But I want to get it out of the way first. T-Shroom, you were right when you said that you believed that the Ethereum price had been baked in. It doesn't really make sense to me why it was baked in because we really weren't that high, but we're very much acting like it's baked in. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my thoughts on Ethereum and Bitcoin, but I wanted to start off and tell you guys I was wrong. I deeply apologize. I will not be right about everything from here on out either, but I'm going to do the best I can to get back on track with the right predictions. Let's take a happening. Let's start off with Bitcoin, T-Shroom. Now, today, let's come out all the way down to the hourly chart. I did tell our group, our VIP trading group, that I did believe we would see a short bounce today when we broke below 64,000. Sure enough, we did get a nice bounce. We rallied all the way back up above 65, only to move back down. We're currently hovering around $64,600. On the hourly chart, let's take a look what this possibly means for the rest of today. There is some serious resistance back up here, looming just below 66,000. Remember that, because that's a very serious level. We have a take profit on a buy signal right now from Luxalgo, saying 66, possibly as high as back to 67, but let's just focus on 66. There's a smart trail right in there that you can see if I turn off that, wrong one. If I turn off that breaker block, you can see the smart trail is there as well. So, yes, can we rally back up today on the hourly chart? I think we're going to see a lot of reasons to be more bullish. Again, we got some great buying orders in from our oscillators. In fact, I think even if we go to the 4-hour chart, you're going to see a lot of things kind of flipping more bullish right now from our 4-hour perspective. Green momentum, green reversal. The money flow is not positive yet, but that will happen here eventually. As a whole, we are seeing some levels of flashing oversold. However, on these shorter time frames, while we look to the upside, let's take a look and let's just focus right here, T-Shroom, on 66K for a second, because I do think that price of Bitcoin could go back to that place. The problem is, look at that formation that would happen. Let's just pretend for a second we can predict the future perfectly, and the price does come back up to 66K and then keel over. That is what we call a head and shoulders pattern. Left shoulder, head, and then, of course, the right shoulder right here. What this means is that it would set up a bearish scenario for Bitcoin where we could see the price come back here over the next couple of days. This is kind of a concept that maybe we will see the price continue to fall to the downside during the conference. And this bearishness would actually imply we should drop all the way down to 58,700. That's the prediction if a head and shoulders pattern comes into play. I want to make sure you guys understand there is no head and shoulders pattern just yet. This is something that absolutely I'm just looking ahead and saying, hey, this is a potential with resistance sitting up there at 66, and the fact that we have created a very good-looking left shoulder, a head, and have the potential to show up a right shoulder, that's something to keep an eye on. If we go to longer time frames, let's come all the way out here to the daily chart. Let's pretend we were to look at that 58K as a realistic spot. Take a look at where the daily smart trail is actually coming in. I did not think that we would have to revisit this for quite a while, but as we're looking at bearish price action, this is something that absolutely is back on the table as a potential spot for Bitcoin. Even if you were to come over here into high block capital, let's go over and take a look at Bitcoin. And we have to look at a couple different time frames here, but I want to show you what we're kind of looking at. If you come in here, you're going to see actually, there's mostly not any liquidity sitting at that level. Most liquidity is... You have to go all the way down to 51. I don't think we're going to go that far, but again, I've been wrong, so you have to be aware of it. Let me go to the 7-day. Let me see if there's anything else. I know that Ethereum. We'll have to take a look at Ethereum's liquidity here in a second. There's some potential. Here we go. There is some heavy liquidity. Not heavy because it's not bright yellow, but if I'm zooming in here, there is some heavy liquidity down right at 60,000. You don't have to stop right where liquidity goes. We easily could see the price come out and clear all of these long positions only to prepare for a move to the upside. Does that have to happen? No, it does not. As I kind of mentioned, if you start taking a look at some of these shorter time frames, or let's even start off the longer time frames. The longer time frames, money flow overwhelmingly still positive. And as a whole, I would not be surprised if we did start to see the price come down a little bit closer, a little farther, but we start to set up some bullish divergence here as well. But when I come into like the 4-hour chart, which is telling me the next couple of days, like I mentioned, we actually are sitting on a lot of support at the moment. We've pretty much come down here and gotten extremely close to our take profit on the sell order. We're getting some more buy signals / oversold signals on the 4-hour chart here for Bitcoin as well. And the other thing I want to remind everyone, if you take a look at our volume, there's no major volume except for the places where we seem to be reversing. So if I were to go like to the 50-minute chart, let me turn off Lux Algo just to get rid of some of the noise here. You can see the only places where volume seems to come back in is at bottoming out opportunities here. So does that mean for sure we are done? Not necessarily, but as a whole, I still see this whole pullback, whether we stop anywhere here around 63 or if we even pull all the way back to 58. This is still an opportunity that I'm watching the low volume communicate that the bulls are simply biding their time and waiting for an opportunity. And we will get there in a second. We might even come back to the charts in just a couple of minutes, but I did want to start off by telling you, with this dip still in play, there are things that are on the table that yesterday I didn't think were going to happen. I've had to readjust my analysis, had to readjust what the prices and things are looking like, and now I'm telling you guys, while there's still a lot of support between us and 58K, 58K or 58.7 to be exact, is a target that I think everyone should at least be heavily considering. Moving over into Ethereum, and then we're going to go in and take a look at some stories and kind of break down what the future does look like. Ethereum went lower than I told you guys I thought it would go as well. I did think that there was going to be, let me come out here to the 4-hour chart. I did think there was going to be some strong support here closer to 33,000 where we had our smart trail of support. Well, as you can see, last night we did lose that level firmly, and we're starting to move down to the downside. Now, I told you guys if we did lose that level, do not be surprised to see Ethereum come all the way down closer to 3,000, possibly even make a revisit back down to 28K. Coming back over to high block capital, I told you guys we would take a look at Ethereum. You're going to see that Ethereum definitely still has some lower liquidity. Unlike Bitcoin, where there's really not a lot necessarily, you do see a bright spot sitting in right here at 2,800 on Ethereum for potential liquidations. People can see that, right, T-Shirt? That's not being blocked by anybody? Okay. Just want to make sure. Sometimes if T-shirt was in this corner, you would not see what I was even pointing at. But you do see some fat liquidity sitting right there based off the 7-day chart. So now that Ethereum's making these lower moves, and I'm going to talk more about Ethereum here in a second when we get into some of the news stories and my feelings on how that's going to work. But as a whole, this is back on the table. We lost 33. I told you guys, do not be surprised to get 3,000 to 2,800 back on the table if that happens. We are sitting in that scenario, possibly erasing once again all of the gains from the Ethereum ETF hype. Again, just like Bitcoin, though, I want to make sure you guys understand, while I'm not saying we have to stop right now, we are seeing major oversold signals. Now, on Ethereum, we absolutely have bullish divergences put into play that could be signaling that we have a reversal coming sooner rather than later. But for right now, the bears are in control. I want to make sure you guys understand, though, take a look at what's happening here. Volume only recently here increasing. A lot of this, unlike the rest of the altcoin space, has to do with a major selling factor on Ethereum, that this is where I pretty much got everything wrong with my prediction. I'm going to explain to you where I got it wrong. We all knew that Grayscale, the GBDC, was going to start selling off their Ethereum holdings. The fees they had when these Ethereum ETFs went live was stupendous, and people were going to sell their Ethereum futures ETFs. So they're going to sell their spot ETFs to get out of these high fees. This was expected. What I thought was that, again, this is where I said I did not think the price was baked in, because we weren't even close necessarily to the price we were just at here back at the end of May. I thought that we would at least push the price back up to 4,000 before we had a different conversation. Well, it turns out there's been very little demand. Once again, the volume didn't really uptick. We had a little bit of uptick when we first started going live, but it didn't come in until we made this big move to the downside. Meaning that big move paired with a bearish candle means that almost no one was really willing to buy. It was only selling pressure right here, and I guarantee you this had to do with people dumping the Ethereum ETF from Grayscale. It was not a major FUD move. It's not meaning that Ethereum's price is done moving to the upside. It just meant there was a heavy amount of selling, which we expected, but what I did not expect was there was no demand at these levels to actually buy. Now that I'm seeing price come back down, it's one of these things that even though I thought we'd defend these levels, we are so close to bringing the boat back once again to 2,800. We are only $300 removed from it. It doesn't make sense to me, and I could be wrong about this one too, guys, because again, we're sitting on a long support, but it doesn't make sense to be so close to bringing the boat fully back and not end up doing it, especially when all the volume coming in right now, it's not bullish volume, it seems to be more bearish volume. I would not be surprised to see the price of Ethereum pull back down here a little bit lower. Now, we'll look at some altcoins later. We'll get some Q&A from you guys on what altcoins you want to take a look at. As a whole, My prediction, I'll make sure you guys understand before we transition here, because we're about to get extremely bullish. And I don't want people saying, like, Tim is being really confusing here because he's saying the price is going down, but then he's going to get really bullish. My prediction is that this dip, while temporarily potentially rallying with Bitcoin and a couple other coins, I don't think the dip is over. I think we do go down a little bit lower, but we're flashing already signs of being oversold. And so, therefore, don't be surprised if when we finally get a reversal, we will see things called bullish divergences. That's what I'm looking for, where our price actions lower lows are going down, but the lower lows of the lows of the oscillators will be going up. That will show you the strength is coming back. The bulls are taking advantage of low prices once again, and the madness of the bull run will continue. And the reason for that isn't on the charts right now. The charts are saying probably go a little lower. The reason for that is some of these headlines that we are talking about. But the first one I want to start off with, why it makes sense we talked about Ethereum going down, the grayscale ETF selling off. Why is Bitcoin crashing? There's going to be some FUD out there. People are throwing out Mt. Gox. They're throwing out a bunch of other things. We actually do want to start with one bearish story. That is the reason why Bitcoin fell below that strong level of support, 65,000. T-Shroom, what is that reason?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it can be found here on the cryptobasic.com. Check it out. Here's the headline. Bitcoin miners 1.2 billion sell off, driving Bitcoin prices to 60K as Ethereum ETF hype wanes. That's the headline that they're running there on the cryptobasic.com. And here's some of the details. Bitcoin miners have sold. They have sold. This is just reported from on-chain data. Bitcoin miners have sold 20,000 Bitcoin in 10 days. That really is just like the end of the show right there.
What people need to understand about this is, like, there's FUD stories. Like this concept of Mt. Gox, like, oh, this many Bitcoin are going out to these people, and they could all go and sell. That is speculation on what possibly could come. We've actually seen a lot of evidence, in case you guys are wondering, that Mt. Gox holders are not wanting to sell. Most of them have actually already gotten back a lot of their holdings. I think that finishes. We will not have to worry about Mt. Gox pretty much ever again in the next couple of days, because the last bit is finally going to be released. But we're watching overwhelmingly, as we predicted on this channel, the Mt. Gox holders, they bought Bitcoin in 2014. You think that they're selling when they've been watching what Bitcoin's been doing for 10 years? Absolutely not. They are long-term bullish. And as we said, while that was used as a story to scare people into a major crash coming, it was not legitimate. This story that T-Shroom just read, on the other hand, it's extremely factual, because it's not an issue of what could happen. It's an issue of what did happen. As he read, 20,000 Bitcoin were sold by miners to help pay off some bills. That's bearish. There's no two ways to talk about it. You can't explain it away and be like, oh, it's bullish. No, it's bearish. That's why price is dropping right now. It makes a lot of sense why Bitcoin lost support. I didn't know this. I had to learn it this morning. But that is the reason why Bitcoin is falling. And by the way, as I said, could we bounce where we currently are? We could. There are signs of oversold, but I don't think it's over just yet. As that article kind of incentivizes, it says 60K is back on the table. As I showed you the potential breakout prediction on a head and shoulders pattern, we could see a little bit below 59K. But as a whole, we wanted to get all of the negativity out of the way because, here at the conference, T-Shirt, we've already met probably 3 or 4 people that have said borderline the same thing to us. And it was, thank you. I watch you guys every single day because you guys keep me sane in this crazy market. There's very easy in these volatile moments to see a bullish candle and overreact and act like tomorrow you're going to be seeing brand new all-time highs. And then you see a bearish candle, it's very easy to overreact and say, uh-oh, are we crashing now down to new lows? Oh, there's a nice phone call coming in. There we go. But the point is that if you zoom out, T-Shroom, let's even look at Ethereum and Bitcoin real quickly. Let me show them the daily chart. I don't know if you're sharing my screen. You said I can't ever tell. All right, there we go. When you look at this chart right here, guys, when you look at it from this perspective, this dip is a blip on the radar. We are still so overwhelmingly bullish when it looks at Ethereum. It's only if I were to look at the candles like this that it makes me freak out. The point of what we're about to talk about is we want to make sure you guys understand, while price could dip just a little bit lower, if any of you are worried or considering capitulating for the rest of the bull market because you think something is broken, I just want to make sure you guys have the full perspective. This is Bitcoin right here. Once again, this is how whales look at the charts, and when you see a candle like this, or you see a chart like this, there is not a problem in the world. In fact, guys, I don't think it's going to happen. But even if Bitcoin, I want to make sure you guys understand this, even if Bitcoin fell all the way to 40%, or $40,000. I don't know why I said percent. Even if it fell to $40,000, I want you to understand that that still is not the end of the bull market. This is something very normal that happens in cryptocurrency bull markets. Big volatility does not mean the bull market's over. It just means increased opportunity to buy cheaper crypto prices. And that's why, despite the fact that we're telling you prices probably have a little bit further to go to the downside on this dip, the bull market is so close and so ready to explode. And no matter what's happening today, it's not changing the massive bullish price action that's coming over the next year, or really over the next couple of years. And now we're going to get into that hopium, that good news that you guys need to stay sane in the crypto market. T-Shroom, tell us about what bulls and whales are doing in preparation on these dips.
Absolutely. Well, I saw it in the comments here. I actually don't have a story for it. I could easily find one if you want to get more details. But Marathon Digital, one of the biggest miners, just announced a $100 million Bitcoin buy, and I believe they have bought it. Not that they're going to buy it. Maybe let us know in the chat if that's accurate. But we've got some other bullish things I do have articles for. The first of which here from Bitcoin News said Mayor Stephen Fulop, never seen that name before, announces the Jersey City Pension Fund is updating paperwork with the SEC to allocate a portion of the fund's Bitcoin ETFs. Now this reminds me of, and I'm glad they included it in this tweet, and this is why I featured this account, which we usually don't, because they added this, similar to the Wisconsin Pension Fund's 2% allocation. This is really big, right? This is really big. When Wisconsin Pension Fund did that, that was a huge turning point for me. A lot of folks were thinking, could we have peaked out, already hitting the all-time high in 2024? No, not when you have pension funds investing for the very first time. We're seeing continuation of that. My guess is that Mayor Stephen is a little bit of a Bitcoin bull, and he's buying in a moment, right? Or he's announcing that he's going to buy on behalf of the city's pension fund, kind of in and around the Bitcoin convention. So so he's definitely paying attention. He's a little bit awake there, but it doesn't stop there, Tim. Can you believe it? There's more bullish news to be had.
Yeah.
We're gonna look into it right here. This is Van Echt's hat. Actually, I'm wearing a Van Echt hat that got this fresh off the press from the convention. It says Bitcoin Propaganda Department. A little bit of humor there. We like to have fun.
T-Shroom's stacking up the merch here in
That's
Nashville.
right. That's right.
In fact, he already has told me in day one he has too much merch. We're going to have to ship him home because he does not have room in his suitcase to get his flight home.
And I'm not paying for another suitcase on
that's
Delta.
ridiculous. That'd be dumb.
I'm just going to mail it back via UPS or something like that. But Van Echt has been busy because they're not only printing hats, really cool hats, they're also printing reports. And this is a report that came out yesterday, the executive summary of which says it all. Bitcoin price to 2.9 million by 2050.
It's quite a prediction.
Yeah.
Quite a prediction. Actually, you know what? It's not that quite a prediction. By 2050, for some reason, my brain processed that as like 2030. That would be kind of insane. Doable.
Yeah.
But 2050, 2.9, you said million or billion?
2.9 million per coin.
That is not hard to do at all. We're talking about the next 25 years.
I was trying to really juice it up here.
Yeah,
Get the hopium going, and you're saying, well, it's more of a realistic prediction.
That's not a realistic prediction. That's a bearish prediction in my opinion. But read more about it.
I guess that is more hopium then. All right.
Yeah.
This hat's a little tight on my head. It is conceivable that by 2050, Bitcoin could be used to settle 10% of the globe's international trade and 5% of the world's domestic trade. The world's domestic. Oh, I see. Each country's domestic trade. Got it. This scenario would result in central banks holding 2.5% of their assets in Bitcoin, using assumptions about global growth, investor Bitcoin demand, and Bitcoin's turnover. We apply a velocity of money equation to suggest a potential price of 2.9 million per Bitcoin, translating to a total market cap of 61 trillion. That's a big one. 61 trillion market cap. That's how many times gold right now? Gold's around 10, so it's about 6 times the
gold is like 15.
Yeah, so it's a little bit less than 6 times.
4. I think gold's around 15 trillion right now, so 4 times gold.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Applying our existing framework for valuing Ethereum's layer 2s, we estimate that Bitcoin's layer 2s could collectively be worth 7.6 trillion, approximately 12% of Bitcoin's total value. Dude, there's so much hopium packed into this this paragraph. I love it. It's really, really great. Now I would be not giving this any credence. We would definitely not be bringing it on air if this was just some post on Wall Street Bets Reddit thread or something like this. But this is Van Eck, right? This is a giant Wall Street firm. Now they have skin in the game, right? They're collecting fees from these Bitcoin ETFs that they've issued. So, they have an incentive. They have a bias for Bitcoin to go higher.
Yeah.
Right. But they're also not going to come out and put their neck out and say, oh, Bitcoin's going to 50 billion tomorrow, right? They have limitations on trying to keep their brand, believable and reputable. 2.9 million by 2050. It should be enough for you to never sell Bitcoin, never remove it from your hodl bags. It is extremely, extremely bullish.
What percentage of an X is that from here? Like that's
I don't know.
How many X's is that? I mean, that's
I'm not
easy
the X
math.
guy.
We'll pull up a calculator here, ladies and gentlemen. This is great technology they put on your phones these days. 2.9 million.
2.9 million.
All right, divided by 65K.
Divided by 65K.
Equals 44.
40.
Right?
That's a 44X.
So
that's a lot of money.
But again, we're not talking about a 44X over the next 5 years, which again, I think that's stretching. I think 2.9 million, we're pretty much, let's just round it to 3 million. So I don't think we see $3 million in per Bitcoin before 2030. Barring between now and 2030, we see crazy hyperinflation, which is a problem. And in that case, it's not that the demand of Bitcoin drove the price so high to 3 million. It's that the dollar got so depreciated that it was super easy for Bitcoin to go that high. But when you talk about the next 25 years, I mean, we're talking about less than a 2x average per year for Bitcoin. I don't think that that's realistic at all. I think 2050, we are discussing potentially closer maybe to 10 million or higher per coin on Bitcoin, because I do think between now and 2050 you'll see an evolution of the dollar one way or the other. But there's only a mathematical equation. If you look at our debt, T-Shroom, and the way it's being done, they have to continue to print money into oblivion just to pay off the debtors. So hyperinflation, the goal is at this point, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. The goal is to postpone it as long as possible, draw it out as long as possible. Inflation is going to stay high. So what does that say, everybody? Continue to stack your sats. Continue to buy your cryptocurrencies, because at some point, the dollar is going to be so useless, it either has taken a completely different form, and the only people with wealth actually own their wealth in crypto, or we've gotten rid of it completely, and the world is operating with currency that we'd never heard of before. And before anyone says that's nuts or that's crazy, let's just really think about this, guys. We are not that far removed from the dollar in its current form. It wasn't until the 80s that we actually saw the dollar officially and completely be removed from the gold standard. That means, guys, it has only been like 40-something years since we've been working with this kind of currency. Before that, the American dollar, while it had an existence for hundreds of years before that, actually, I guess this is a history lesson. The United States dollar was not uniformed currency of the United States until after the Civil War. The South operated with a certain kind of currency called the Confederate dollar. The North operated with a different kind of currency, which is now known. It got adapted to the U.S. dollar. But it is not abnormal for every 50 to 100 years after the gold standard was obliterated evenly for money to change how it's formed. So anyone who's saying, oh, the dollar is just too strong, the dollar is going to be here for a long time. Guys, the dollar is not even 50 years old in its current form of how it operates. So to think that in the next 25 we could be operating and living life with a completely different form of currency, that's just normal monetary policy with how the world has been operating now for a while. So I don't think that's ridiculous at all for me to predict, T-Shirt. Tell me if you disagree. Chat, tell me if you disagree. It's hard for me to read chat because I have to read off my phone. But do you disagree with that take? Is that not a crazy thought that the dollar is still an ability, like it's not so dominant that we can't perceive a future without it? I think it's good, but it's also my opinion, so that's probably why.
The closest that we've seen so far is Bitcoin, right? And also the BRICS. The BRICS nations, I think, probably have a better chance. Well, I don't know. I think Bitcoin and BRICS are probably neck and neck. They're coming from two totally different angles. Mm-hmm. One is is now very much adopted by a lot of large American institutions, whereas BRICS is kind of the opposite. It's the anti-American currency in some sense. And then you could kind of throw in the euro in there and how it has been able to compete with the dollar, but it's also kind of been if you look at the history of the euro dollar, there's a bit of evidence there that the euro has just been the little sister of the dollar, and it was always going to be that and never anything else. So could the dollar be completely replaced? I find it hard to believe that even in the year 2050 that state employees of the United States government wouldn't be paid in dollars. I feel like it just doesn't make sense as a U.S. government to pay my employees in anything other than what I can print. I guess it just would be the limit there would be how long are employees willing to work for the government if the dollars that they're getting paid in is hyperinflationary. So. I absolutely, though, believe in it, that the dollar could be replaced. I think, though, that it has a lot farther to fall than most people realize that are in the BRICS camp, that are really fearing the BRICS threat to the dollar. I think that has a long way to go before it realistically puts damage. I think Bitcoin
but I'll tell you this, T-Shirt,
is in the same camp.
Interrupting that, the BRICS plan, because we all know that, the BRICS nations are planning to try to destroy the U.S. dollar. They're not going to do it with their own currency. Their currency is worse than the United States dollar. I mean, the ones they'd have to choose between would be like the Chinese yuan or the Russian ruble. Those, if you think the dollar is terrible, just take a look at what those are doing. And then we just got news, it's actually very bullish long term, is that China is about to start, or I don't know if they did or they're about to start lowering their interest rates as well, because they're seeing the same problems, only worse with their currency. But their plan to destroy the dollar, if they can't use their own currency, what are they going to use? They're going to use cryptocurrency. And this is where what was his name again? I always forget the name. The guy that wrote the book about the weaponization
Jason
of Bitcoin.
Lowry.
Jason Lowry.
We're going there.
This is where I really do think he was ahead of his time when he wrote the book, is that Bitcoin, yes, it's wealth. We all know that. But for governments, it's a weapon. Money is a weapon. I mean, already, it's not an outrageous thought because the U.S. dollar is a weapon. That's the greatest weapon the United States has at the moment to hold itself and its power over the rest of the world. The BRICS plan is not to replace the dollar with another stupid fiat currency. They're going to replace it with something solid that they go ahead and they're going to try to beat the United States to the punch to adopting cryptocurrency, which is why I think it's so important that this election season, again, you guys vote for whoever you want to, but there's two candidates for sure that are very strong believers that the United States is doomed if they do not pick up and adopt more Bitcoin. One of those guys would be my recommendation that we as Bitcoin holders should be going for. But again, not trying to tell you who to vote for. You do whatever you want. My point is, though, that I think what Jason Lowry envisioned is coming true before our very eyes in a time sooner than he thought. I think Bitcoin already is being weaponized for government entities to try to continue to maintain control. And the good news, just as Frederick Hayek said way back in 1984, this is the way we steal power back from the elites, from the centralized. When we went off the gold standard and we gave all authority of currency to a small group of people known as government entities to let them decide what the power of wealth looks like and when to print and when not to print, we gave up our power to control ourselves. Money is so important. Value is so important. Wealth is so important. And Bitcoin is the answer to fix all that. But it's being a weapon. It's going to become a weapon. And the sooner America, if they want to keep authority of some kind, they've got to learn to they got to beat the BRICS nations to the punch of adopting cryptocurrency. And the faster they do it, the better the opportunity that we do see the dollar officially go away in the next 25 years or so. I just think it's not a guarantee, but I think it's a likely outcome that in 25 years, people are like, remember when we used to pay in things called the dollar? That's something I think we could be having conversations with. I want to get into some chat here, T-Shirt. First of all, I don't know if he was here earlier. I want to make sure he hears this. Usama, I see you in chat, my friend. Thank you so much for coming back every single day. You were right, man. Listen,
we love you.
Hats off to you. Hats off to T-Shroom. You guys were right. I was wrong. I will admit that. Again, I'm still not long-term bearish. I still think that there's a bright future, but hats off to you. You stuck to your guns. I love it. I was wrong. You were right, my friend. If I ever meet you, I'll buy you a steak dinner, even though we didn't make that bet. You got that from me. I saw something else in chat, T-Shroom, that I want to make sure I reference because earlier in the show, we talked about, based off the 4-hour chart, that I think there's a possibility, if you go back to my screen here, T-Shroom, I think there's a possibility that Bitcoin rallies back up to 66K, where we will run into some resistance from a smart trail on the 4-hour. On the 1-hour, you have a breaker block that's in play right here, also a smart trail. I think there's a chance that we see Bitcoin run back up to 66K only to reject and move back down to the downside. And then this would give us a price prediction based off a head and shoulders pattern of maybe pulling back all the way to 58.7. So let's just even say 59. I don't know if we're going to get all the way back there. Maybe we come back and touch some of these resistance levels we had back in July. Let's call it 59, but below 60K. I think that that's in play. But I saw a comment, I don't remember who said it, and it's scrolling way back, and I have to scroll my phone, so I can't really go back. But they said that head and shoulders pattern on the 4-hour chart could turn into, and I'm pretty sure they said this, a head and shoulders pattern on the daily chart. Let's go out here, and I want to make sure, maybe this is not what they meant, and if that's not what they meant, then I apologize. But I want to make sure anyone who's out there who might be confused, they might be thinking that what I'm talking about here, or what could happen on the daily chart, is that the price comes down here, all of a sudden now you have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder, right? That is not a head and shoulders pattern. So anyone who thinks potentially if price were to make its way back down to 58, maybe even if it were to come back down here and try to make its way down to the lower $50,000 levels, that thinks that's a head and shoulders pattern, which means doom and gloom way down even lower, that is not a head and shoulders pattern. For a head and shoulders pattern to be valid and in play, the head must be higher than the left shoulder. And in this case, that is not it. So in other words, if I were to draw a head and shoulders pattern, you have to see the head be higher than the shoulders. You'll never see a shoulder be here and a head be equal or lesser. This is not a head and shoulders pattern. The head is the tallest. Just like on a human, you're never going to see someone's left or right shoulder be higher up than their head unless they're hanging upside down. And then we're talking about an inverse head and shoulders, ladies and gentlemen. So want to make sure before anyone gets worried about that and is taking a look at this chart and saying, uh-oh, is that's the case? Are we going to drop a whole lot lower? No. That is not a head and shoulders pattern. I want to make sure people also understand that just even goes for the further out time periods. Anyone who's worried, that's not going to be the case either. Actually, I'll tell you this. This is not going to happen, I don't think. But the more likely outcome, remember earlier when I said 40K, even if it hit 40K, this would still be bullish, T-Shroom? You know what we kind of have going on right here that looks actually really clean? And I'm being really exploratory here, guys. We're not going to 40K. But if we did go to 40K, let's just play the what-if game here for a second. That would be borderline a perfect cup and handle formation, T-Shroom, where you have a very clean-looking cup right here, a handle that roughly goes, it's not quite perfect here, but roughly a halfway distance of the depth of the cup. That's a perfect cup and handle formation and would send the price of Bitcoin back up here. Actually, when we break back up and set new highs, that would be a price prediction breakout up to 130K. So that's why I can tell you guys, when you look out, remember when I said even if we went to 40K, it would still be a bullish formation? That's why. Right there, that is why. That would be a long-term, extremely bullish formation. But again, I'm going to go here with my predictions based off of probabilities. The probability of us dropping to 40K, extremely slim. Right now, I think 59, 58 is possible. Yes, there's an outside chance if you were to look at the liquidations. I think I showed you guys this based off of the, let's go, 3-month chart. 3-month chart, you do see some liquidity sitting back down here towards 52 to 50K. Could that happen? It could. I don't think it's going to happen. But as we just learned the other day, I was wrong about losing 65K. So could we lose 58 and go to 50K? I think so. But I will tell you this. There's not a lot of reason for us to drop below 50K. If for some reason the bears picked up steam and suppressed and brought the price back down to 50K, guess what you still have? I want to make sure you guys just see this zoomed out chart vision. If we went down to 50K, let me get rid of this stuff. I'll draw it back if the head and shoulders does come into fruition. If we were to drop to 50K, all that would be is bringing us back down to this lower support level of a falling channel. And this still is more often than not a formation that breaks to the upside. It would change the breakout prediction from 83K. It probably would make us somewhere in the category closer to 80K. Let's kind of look at what this would. Let's just pretend we don't get a big breakout till here closer to September, October area. Yeah, we're looking at more like a breakout to 80K as a whole. But even that scenario, even if we set a new low for this dip and go to 50K, we're still talking about a macro bullish formation. The bull market is here. T-Shroom, I don't even know if we have more stories here. I might have interrupted the story process, but we're just reading on the show story after story after story of institutional buyers continuing to plan on. They're not executing it, but planning on how they can scoop up more and more and more Bitcoin and more and more and more Ethereum. Why? Because yes, prices move to the downside, and yes, they can go and buy even more of a dip, but they see the future. They look at these charts zoomed out, and they say to themselves, man, how low can we get price to go before the retail refuses to sell anymore? That's the lowest we're going to go, and then we're going to allow the markets to go explosively to the upside because they want to make money too, guys, and they don't make money unless price goes up, 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 and to the right. So they're just biding their time. They're waiting on it. They understand what few people understand is that the bull market is still early. We still have such a long time, over 12 months left before even the 4-year cycle is finished with. There's a lot of time to let price stay suppressed, to go down, to buy the dips, and then make their money in the future. Just because your portfolio isn't showing you millions of dollars today does not mean that's not the case still a year from now.
Absolutely. Matt C., we apologize.
He's locked out of his hotel.
Yeah, I've got his keys.
I texted him that he should come to our hotel, which is not that far away.
I don't think that's a solution. I'm gonna jump on one of these city electric scooters, and I'm gonna jet over there.
Do you have the app? I mean, you have to get the app.
I have the one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then also big shout out to my parents, who are in the chat today, having some fun here. They helped me get the 5G set up on my phone.
Yeah.
The hotspot, which I didn't have before. I'd never had a reason to use it. It's fantastic. It's better than the Starlink, which I don't understand. I don't understand how that's possible. We could have just been using my smartphone. But the thing is, though, I don't know if we would have been able to use it back in where I live in Florida, because the 5G bars probably wouldn't be as high as they are here in downtown Nashville. All right, the other thing I did want to bring up, headline-wise, and thank you again to Usama, I believe, who brought this to our attention, Usama Trebelsi, who's also saying smash the like. Usama quickly becoming a very serious contender of bro for the month.
Listen, man, he was right. Listen, you got to give the people that get things right their due diligence.
That's right.
You know?
But China unexpectedly cuts 1-year policy rate by most since 2020. Sequence of rate cuts undermined people's PBOCs. That must be the People's Bank of China.
People's Bank of China, yeah.
New policy framework, SOCGen, sees limited impact of easing on household confidence. Okay, so China definitely seems to be in a little bit of a state of quick reaction. I'll leave it there. Hopefully this doesn't deteriorate into more than just having to take a quick central bank action. If it does, I think that the Asian markets are worth monitoring here more than you would usually, because there was also a tweet from Zero Hedge. I don't know if we'll be able to find it quickly enough, but Zero Hedge was saying that there was something that was going on in Japan, that a major fund was having to sell off some assets. So keeping our eyes on the Asian markets may be a little bit more needed right now, because if something picks up over there, it could have carry-on effects into the Western markets. But I believe the Nasdaq's trading higher today, which is good to see. Another reason why crypto had a sell-off today is just because the risk markets yesterday did have some risk off, but it looks like the Nasdaq is recovering somewhat well. Tim, do you want to jump over to the Nasdaq or the Qs maybe?
Yeah, I know we're going to wrap it up here. We're going to go get Matt C is sitting outside of a building right now, just waiting on us to kind of.
Apparently he got access to like some kind of sky lounge.
What a cool guy.
Which is good. That's good. That just means God is in control. We never doubt.
Come on.
He looks after those he loves.
Yeah. So you said you want to take a look at the stock market. Which one specifically? You want to look at the S&P 500?
Yeah, probably the Qs, the triple Q.
The triple Q.
QQQ.
Let's look at QQQ, everybody. Drop in here again. The stock market as a whole is dropping here. It's down right now Let's just go from the top here a couple of days ago. We're down about 8%. This is something, again, Stocks with Josh talked about how, I know he said the S&P 500, for example, was due for like a 10% pullback. Let me go to that one real quick and see where that one is kind of sitting. You see S&P, that's Dow Jones, excuse me, guys. S&P 500, there we go. Down 10%, now down 4%. It did drop about 5%, give or take. 10% is going to put us closer to being back down to about 5,000, give or take, a little bit over 5,000, maybe 5,100. Could happen all the way back down there. But when you go to the QQQ, and we're going to go back here, boom, you do see we are down already. We fell almost 10%, fell almost 10% during our last little bit here. That's NASDAQ. You're also going to notice we start to draw some levels of support. We're definitely coming back into that level that you could be keeping an eye on right there. Going back all the way here to our support of October of 2023. Cloning this, you're going to see we've been in a little bit of a channel here. Pretty clean channel, rising channel. These are bearish long term. So the question is going to become, is this support for the QQQ? Did we just find support here at 457, or are we going to drop down even lower, potentially come back down here to the lows we had back in April to around 414, give or take. Let's check out what Lux Algo's saying. Got ourselves a nice bearish breaker block, but we are hitting the take profit levels of our sell order. So that's going to give us some support right in there. Bullish order block here at 445. What are our oscillators saying? Oscillators gave us a nice sell order here just a little bit ago. Excessive sellers are completely gone now, or excuse me, excessive buyers are gone. But what I'll tell you, that the MACD absolutely could go lower. I do like what I'm seeing on the daily oscillator from Lux Algo, but not flashing bullish, right? So while we're low and we did get a green reversal, this could get a little uglier. This is a hard one to kind of take a look at, T-Shroom, and say for certain what's going to happen, because you do see the major level of support right here, but you look at this oscillator on the daily chart and you start to kind of shake your head and say, uh-oh, this looks like this dip is just beginning, not necessarily over. What's the 4-hour saying from an oscillator perspective? I mean, it's saying oversold, but got room right here. Unless we see a big bounce right now, we're seeing some bullish divergence. I'll tell you this. This is what I think is going to happen here with the QQQ T-Shroom. I think that we're going to get a short-term bounce here, but I don't know if we're going to a new high. I think this is one that you actually, let me turn this back on this support level, on the bullish divergence I'm playing on the 4-hour chart, would not be surprised at all if you do see actually a short bounce, maybe coming back up to the smart trail, maybe this order block 42, but then I think there's a chance we end up losing this support level and moving to the downside. Now, some people might be saying, Tim, if you're saying the stock market's going to be cooling off like this, doesn't that mean crypto's going to do the same? And I'll be honest with you, it could. But if you hadn't been paying attention, the stock market and crypto have been acting divergently now for a while, for well over a month and some change. And I've been on record as saying I have a theory that unless there's a macroeconomic reason that I'm unaware of for the stock market to be crashing because people are afraid, which there's not right now, this is more of a dip because of being so overwhelmingly overpriced, I will not be surprised, especially with these new recent launches and the overwhelming bullish talk from major business entities. We're talking about Larry Fink. We're talking about even most major banks, Fidelity and others, and Grayscale and Michael Saylor. And now you start to see presidential candidates running on platforms by saying we are going to defend and support Bitcoin and how we're going to be using it in the future. What if people take their profits from the stock market simply to move into these new fresh Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, into these cryptocurrencies that people have been talking about online, and that all of a sudden the banks have been saying, oh, we need to start investing in this specific cryptocurrency? I have a theory that you're going to watch the divergence continue, only in this time as the stock market cools off healthily, the crypto markets, which have been healthily retracing for a while, start to get their rallies and go to new all-time highs, probably very, very soon. Before the end of the year is still my time-wise expectation there. But Tishan, what are you thinking about the stock market as a whole? Is this concerning you? Are you feeling extremely bullish? I see you're laughing. I don't know what I'm missing.
I'm laughing because I'm sure Matt sees like, oh gosh, Tim's asking T-Shroom another question. How much longer am I going to sit in this Sky Lounge? I say we go ahead and wrap it up. The stock market's going to be fine. Not financial advice. I think ultimately we will find some support there for equities, but this is crypto season, right? At some point in 2024, liquidity is going to shift into Bitcoin. We know that's going to be, it's going to, for the Bitcoin bull run, the post-halving supply squeeze. So, this could be it. This could be it. I have a feeling it's not it quite yet. But, the events this week, what comes out of the mouth of Orange Man could be pretty interesting. I also didn't read the title of this Van Eck report, and I'm looking at it now. Bitcoin 2050 valuation scenarios, global medium of exchange and reserve asset is the name of the report. So
yeah,
that could be some foreshadowing.
I think that part
there.
of it. I think that part of it's dead on.
Yeah.
I just think 2.9 million. And here's what I'll say: possibly, if the U.S. dollar were not to inflate another penny from current price action, now you have my interest. A 44x without the dollar inflating, all right, now you've piqued my interest saying that would be realistic for 2.9 million. The problem is we know that's not going to happen. Inflation is going to only increase from here on out. So that's why I think the 2.9 million prediction by 2050 is still low for Bitcoin. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. No Q&A today. We're going to go save Matt C., who is stuck on a rooftop in the AC, but we're going to get him into his room because we do have access to that key. Guys, if you have not done it already, smash the like button, hit subscribe. Before we go, did want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's video, CoinW. Guess what? I was wrong. T-Shun was right about price movement. But you know what we were both right about? We knew that this would be volatile. It wouldn't be straight down or straight up. It would be up and down and up and down. And if you want to make money during the seasons of volatility, you can be trading today using CoinW. When you sign up, you can get a free $100. The details of that are in the description below. Go sign up with our link. Make sure you start trading with CoinW today. With that said, love you guys. We'll report back tomorrow. RFK will be speaking tomorrow afternoon. We won't hear it. We'll be doing the live show before he speaks, but we'll be prefacing you guys on how the conference is going so far. Love you. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros.
Now the problem is, I think
We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.
There's not another key.